Hello there. They think we're fools that lap up every crumb of the nonsense they spout every single day. But we're not fools, so they should be very, very careful indeed. Right now we're being fed two narratives. The first is that everything politicians do with regard to net zero and inward migration is wonderful for everyone and hugely benefits the nation and makes everyone wealthier and feel better. And the second narrative is that politicians are being targeted by hateful comments and with a rising number of threats of violence. Not sure how those two stack up when you consider that the consensus view is that the vast majority of these threats seemingly emanate from within those that came here to better their lives economically or to seek the safety of our shores. For some reason there appears to be a growing physical threat from a growing number of people who want to completely change our country and the way it is governed. And this threat does not come from the ordinary citizens of the UK. And all the while the powers that be, our politicians, apart from one or two honest ones, tell us that it's all just a phobia, that there is absolutely no need to worry. In fact, we must accept it or they'll pass more laws to make us accept it. They tell us that if newcomers feel uncomfortable when too many Brit citizens are in their vicinity, then that is totally understandable, but that the opposite is downright xenophobia. And in the same breath, those same politicians are now demanding we pay more taxpayers' money to protect them from a rising threat, from what they themselves are claiming is an imaginary situation, originating from a British phobia regarding a certain demographic. Either it's an imaginary situation based on a phobia, or it's real. Or does the reality only apply where politicians are concerned? So another 31 million quid is going to be splurged on politicians' protection, including giving them a dedicated police contact. What is a policeman? I don't think I've seen one recently. Just think about that. The politicians put in place policies and laws that put the nation and its citizens at risk. Then when it bites them in the derriere, they demand we pay so that they can be protected from their own stupidity. Against something they refuse to acknowledge as a problem in the first place. They want the UK taxpayer to fork out money for something that, by their own assertions, does not pose a problem. Now that's gaslighting, doublethink and doublespeak all at once at its best. Message to all MPs, and it might be an old message, but it is still applicable today. George Orwell's book 1984 was a warning, not an instruction manual. And now we have a fight back from those who either refuse to acknowledge we have a problem or who are actively working to exploit that problem, with Tory MP Lee Anderson being reported to the Met for hate speech. Now Lee Anderson might have spoken clumsily, but from what I've seen he's really summed up the feeling of many millions of ordinary, non-Westminster bubble types in the UK. But those on the left who are forming their relatively short queue to condemn him and his supporters should reflect on the fact that these people are also voters and taxpayers, and they make up a goodly proportion of the silenced majority. A majority forced into silence by policies and laws put together by the very politicians who should be listening to the things the silenced majority had been and would like to now warn them about. But the politicians, their advisers and the snivel serpents all knew best, didn't they? Now, at the end of the day, all those MPs calling for extra money for protection should be forced to fully articulate their fears and identify the source of the harassment and threats. or else they should be dismissed as a phobia. Now, there's been much talk about the rise of the far-right terrorism these days, hasn't there? So I want to put that into context. Here's a graph from a recent government report on the number of persons in custody for terrorism-related offences by ideology from 2014 to 2023. And I've tweaked the names at the bottom so as to not unfairly point the finger at the name of the largest culprit. As you can see, the phobia is the big majority here. But as it grew after 2014, so did the number of those incarcerated for far-right terrorist offences. So although the phobia is the largest, the authorities and politicians can keep claiming that the rising threat is from the far right. See how it's done? And one wonders whether one of them rising was in response to the rise in the other. Now, on a completely different topic, there has been talk that just as with anti-Semitism, another certain religion needs special protection. And there are demands that a special law be drafted to protect their religion and their religion alone from a well-known phobia. And that would require a new definition of that phobia to be enshrined in UK law. Now, Richard Tice, the Reform UK leader, talked around this on GB News while defending the words of a possible addition to his ranks, the aforementioned Lee Anderson. And Tice pointed to the Runnymede definition of that phobia. But there are others. But why this fixation on just one or two religions? Surely, if we are a truly balanced society, we should give all religions exactly the same protection, except where that particular religion is proscribed over its own hateful practices maybe, although I don't think any are at the moment. Actually, we need to afford all people the same protection, don't we? Not just single out one or two groups on a religious basis. Where's the definition for Christianophobia, or Hinduphobia, or Buddhaphobia? And why would no one ever think of cobbling one together? And judging by yesterday's PMQs, where the Labour leader Keir Starmer accused Rishi Sunak of following the Farage playbook, there does seem to be a hefty amount of Farage phobia on the left, doesn't there? Maybe we need a definition for that. Or for UKIP phobia, maybe. How about meat-eating phobia? And, of course, ginger phobia. My observation would be that when you give any single group a special status, that status ends up being abused, in that they feel emboldened to ignore the law and even go around doing unto others that which they do not want done to themselves. The attitude of, the law says you can't bully me, but I can bully you and you have to silently accept it. The net zero lobby, those involved in certain gender issues and now certain religious interests are all clambering onto that rather powerful bandwagon. And the rest of us have a choice. Suck it up, speak plainly against it and get their collar felt, or go through the convoluted language I've used above to try and make their point. And I make no apology for that. Always die on the hilltop, not in a ditch. Now, fewer and fewer people are not appreciating having to suck it up, while more and more people are being plain spoken, although they are getting stick for it through cancellation on social media, or worse. But those that use more convoluted language are more and more able to nudge the boundaries of full free speech, so hopefully in time those who speak plainly will be allowed to vent forth as well. Anyway, my big message here is do not get sucked into arguments about how to draft a law to define this phobia and how it should be framed. No, at the very least, demand that any such law protects all religions and all beliefs in exactly the same way, using the exact same framing of words. For me, Our history and our laws are all so steeped in Christianity that it should remain the predominant religion in the UK. If any religion is to be protected here, it should be Christianity. But that's just my view. What do you think? Please like, subscribe and comment below.